Hey everyone, it's Melissa, your instructor. It's week 7 and we're going to have some important things coming up in Art 100, so I thought I would take time to make a little video update. Alrighty, well, it's October 3rd. It is the beginning of week 7, so we're quickly approaching the middle of the semester, and so some important things happen, including exam 2, which is, those exams happen every 4 weeks, so that'll happen beginning of week 9, still 2 weeks away. But one thing that'll be coming up a little bit more quickly is your first paper, the paper on your gallery experience. So I just want to point out, I'm in student view right now, so I'm viewing what a student normally sees, and I just thought I'd take a moment to show you, to demonstrate how deceiving this coming up area could be. If you go by just what your coming up area says, oh, you only have 2 things that are coming up in the near future. But of course, you know that's not true. So just as, a warning, it's always good to view your calendar and see what's going on. So if we look at the calendar, today's the 3rd, week 7 stuff is due next Sunday. But then the next week, week 8, we have a couple things going on. We have the college is closed on the 10th, as well as a reviews opening. But you then notice too that very soon, on the 16th, right, that Sunday, your gallery experience essay is due. So you've had, for weeks to get this done. So this is one of those assignments that you need to make sure is done on time. It's very unlikely to have, just as a warning, I'm very unlikely to give you extensions on this because you have had so much time to do it and because you do it on your own time. So you need to make sure, if you have not done this already, which some of you have, thank you. If you have not done this already, you need to go make your gallery experience happen sometime in the next, essentially 2 weeks. Okay, so what does that entail? Well, just as a reminder, if we go to assignments, we can find our 2 papers. I don't put those in the modules because they're not weekly assignments. They're something that's due mid-semester and something you should think about for more than 1 week, right? So if we go to assignments, sometimes, just so you know, it'll show everything by date. So it'll show you, oh my gosh, all these overdue assignments that I didn't do because I'm teaching it, but also upcoming assignments in order. But what might be helpful to you is to click type. Type is where it organizes all the assignments according to what kind of assignment it is. So your papers will be at the top. And the gallery experience is the first one, due October 16th at 11:59 p.m. Yep, that's right, October 16th. All right, so if we click on that, it has a lot of instructions. These instructions are very helpful. In fact, I recommend that when you go on your gallery visit, you actually either print out a copy of this or have it on your phone or some device with you so that you can reference it and take notes. That would be probably ideal. Probably for a lot of you, printing out a copy and maybe having a notebook or a sheet of paper to write on would be a good idea. So one thing I need to change is this file type, so expect that to change. I'm not sure why it has all these, because really right now all we're accepting is pdf.doc.docx, because the other ones with the new version of Canvas and with my computer, I'm not able to read them easily. So any program that you're using, whether it's Google Docs or whether you're using that Microsoft 360 that you have access to as a student or something else, you should be able to save as one of these 3 file types. So I'll be sure that that's edited so that is clear. If you have any other file type, it won't let you actually upload it. So really clear instructions, I hope. Tells you what the format is. It should be 2 pages, typed, double space, meaning, double spaced as opposed to single space, which would make it twice as long, right? So that's important to know. And regular margins in font. Please don't mess around with font or use a weird font to try to make it like an exactly 2 pages or longer than 2 pages. Make sure your name and the assignment titles at the top of the essay. Alternately, you could put them in the header or the footer. That's okay with me too. Please don't take up half a page with your header though. That's just kind of pointless. I'm counting words, not actual page space. So instructions, it reminds you that there's a lot of venues that you have to choose from. So since that's the first thing you have to do is really select a gallery, let's take a look down here at those selections. So list of acceptable venues. So what this means is that you need to select from these venues. If you don't select from these venues, if you have a better option or an option that's closer to you, you need to have it approved through me before you complete the assignment, or you may end up doing it again. So please be sure, and some of you already have, contact me before you do the assignment if you have a different venue. So you've got Bucktown Center for the Arts, where you choose one gallery. I will warn you, if you go into the gallery and you see just really commercial stuff, or you don't see any, I guess, paintings or drawings on the walls, maybe it's just jewelry or something, beaded jewelry or something, you might not want to use that for the assignment. It just doesn't work as well. You got Quad City Arts Center, you got Arts at the Airport, the Artery, Mid-Coast, and there's also a couple of galleries at St. Ambrose, which are great. There's also one in Augustana. Now, the one at Augustana, you notice, does not say gallery. It says museum. And you're saying, Ms. Hebert-Johnson, you told us don't use a museum for this assignment. And that is absolutely true. I did tell you that. However, because of the way the Augustana College Art Museum works, it rotates art regularly. It's relatively small. Sometimes they have some contemporary artists. It just feels a lot more like a gallery. And for our assignment, I think it works really well. So you can use the Augustana College Art Museum, but that's the only museum that you're allowed to use. In fact, if we go back to the top, notice in bold, right above the list of acceptable venues, the Figge Art Museum is not listed. Why? Because it's not a suitable venue. It will be the subject of a later assignment. Also, it's a museum. And it's a traditional museum. It's a big museum that works like a museum, rather than the Augustana Museum, which is really kind of smaller and works a little bit more like a gallery. So please, no Figge Art Museum for this assignment, whatever you do. And it's here so that there's no excuses. If you miss it on that, it's not on this list of acceptable venues. It is absolutely not acceptable for this assignment. So please be sure to know that by the time you go to do this assignment. Okay, so you need to find time sometime in the next couple of weeks, if you hadn't done already, to visit a gallery. You notice too that there are lists with, some of them have hours, some of them have phone numbers. Note though that in the Quad Cities, because we aren't like New York City or Chicago, they often don't have paid employees, or they have part-time employees, which means that sometimes they're not going to be open when they say they are. And this is just the way it is with small businesses and non-for-profits, right? It's something that we accept about that. People can't people sometimes have emergencies going on, and then there's no volunteer to step in. So what that means is call before you come. Call, make sure they're going to be open when you want to get there. And then if they're not still, then find an alternative. Make sure you have backup. It's a good idea. Okay. All right, then there's lots of instructions. Now notice that these bullet points are there. They're there for your convenience. They are not there as a format for your essay. Your essay should be a narrative. It should have an introduction, some body paragraphs, and a conclusion, not bullet points. How you want to present this information to me is up to you, aside from the fact that we need an intro, conclusion, and about 2 pages. Okay? So these bullet points are there for you as you're taking notes and doing the assignment, for your convenience. They're not for you to use, as the format for your paper. Lots of kind of basic information, but notice that 2 things are bolded, and the reason that I bold them is because A, I think they're important, and B, I think they get overlooked a lot in this assignment. So I'm giving you a little warning that when I look at this assignment, these are important things, 4 and 5, that I'm going to be looking for, and I want you to spend some time on them, not just 1 sentence, not even just 2 sentences, more if you can, okay? So what are they? Well, give a general description of the venue. Do you think it's a commercial gallery? So this means a description. A description is more than a few words. It's even more than a sentence, right? So spend a paragraph on this. Then also, in addition, a talking point. What kind of gallery do you think it is? Do they educate? Do they have a different purpose? Speculate. Ask somebody, right? Let's talk about that. Not 2 sentences, not even 3 sentences. Maybe make a paragraph out of that. And 5, what do you think of the space? What do you think when you walk in? What's your first impression? And what's your reaction to the environment? Be specific, be detailed, and this is where your experience comes in, right? This is what you're telling me about how you react when you come to the gallery, and I think this is a really great sort of exercise for you it says be specific and detailed, so I'm, again, warning you that I really want you to spend some time on this. Maybe even 2 paragraphs, right? Definitely more than a few sentences, okay? Then there is a point where it asks you to find an artwork that you react to, and there's actually a big section on that, but you don't have to spend a ton of time on this artwork. The artwork part, where you look at one artwork, is not the most important part. That one artwork is not the most important part of your paper. I'm just giving you, again, a lot of talking points that you can work off of, okay? Really, the most important part is up here. That's why it's in bold, okay? All right, and then there's some notes, kind of common sense things, but I realize that some people haven't been to galleries and maybe they don't know. So things like, please don't touch or move artworks. We actually had a situation, unfortunately, a couple years ago where we went as a field trip, and one student got in trouble for literally just laying hands on artworks and giggling and thinking it was funny. And I don't think that any of you are going to do that, but just in case, you should know that's not acceptable, right? Unless you're invited to touch an artwork, you shouldn't. That should just be kind of like the default. Sometimes you are invited to touch artwork. Sometimes you're actually supposed to interact with the artwork as part of it. Most of the time, though, that is not the case in a traditional gallery, so just be aware of that. I already warned you about watch out for regular business hours. I do ask you to, when you go in the gallery, it's really a good idea to talk to someone. However, spend some time on your own first. We want to get your impressions. Your experience is the most important part. So rather than what someone tells you about what you should be experiencing, I want you to kind of discover it on your own. But if you have questions, please talk to a gallery attendant and talk to me about what that experience is like too, speaking with an attendant. All right, that is about it. So I think that's all I have for you this week. I just wanted to press upon you the importance of getting the actual gallery visit done in a timely fashion so you give yourself lots of time to actually complete the assignment. Because waiting till the last moment and not finding a gallery that's open is not going to be an acceptable excuse for turning in something late, okay? And I'm sure most of you know that, but just as a reminder, hopefully those of you watching this will, then it'll impress upon you the importance of getting that done. So have a great week, and I'll probably speak to you next Monday or Tuesday as well.